Hello?
I'm good.
Assuming this works.
There we go.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for sticking around. I'm Natalie Black. I'm the CMO of MIA, Mission Impact Academy, and it is my excitement that I'm hardly able to contain to talk to you about technology and inclusivity, and just a little bit about why I'm so excited about this conversation. So Mission Impact Academy, we're actually a pretty unique startup. So we are dubbed the future of work because we do believe that the future of work is in inclusivity and diversity. Specifically, we are created to, we are created to empower women through tech education, like AI, emerging technologies. And we also provide a robust career resources and development resources, and also immediately from the jump, a global network of like-minded women. So women are able to get on our platform, they're able to learn the skills of the future today, and they can be non-technical. We actually very much encourage that. Adapt that, and then connect, collaborate, tear shit down, whatever the case may be, with women all around the world. So we're quite proud of that. And we like to think of ourselves as the beginning of this inclusive innovation movement. And so when we're talking about technology and its role for underrepresented communities, I have the best panel here to discuss that. So I want to kick it off because these are the big brains, and they have such a global perspective of what's happening right now, that how we can make sure that technology includes everyone and the impact is good. So I want to go ahead and I want to talk to Seth for a moment. So Seth, I mentioned AI. It's AI because that's the topic du jour, but all emerging technologies. So let's talk about your experience and its impact on emerging markets.
Sure. First, can anyone hear me? Can you guys all hear me? Yeah?
Yep.
Cool. Great to be here. Yeah, so, I see the AI explosion, if you will, as kind of part of a, in a larger context. We were chatting before we got on here. There's an enterprise component to it, and there's, which I think is long-term really interesting and can reach a lot of markets. And there's this sort of disruptive noise going on right now, particularly in areas like media and entertainment and creative industries where these chat technologies threaten to overturn stuff. But look, we're talking about emerging markets and emerging audiences. And I actually think, a lot of the same challenges apply if you're trying to bring out digital, whether it's content or services or networks. It's got to be priced the right way. It's got to be packaged the right way. People need to understand it and afford it. And it needs to sit in the context so that it hits every audience, not just, say, corporates or the rich or the elite, wherever it is. And I think a lot of that applies to AI right now. But I'm kind of an optimist on it. I don't think it's going to destroy the world. And I don't. I think it will change some things and save some jobs and make things more efficient. But I'm a big believer in humans and human beings, and think we're not going to get taken over by robots, is my view.
Yeah, no, same. We had this conversation earlier about human and machine collaboration. And Vijay, because you are so focused on making sure that the tech gets to the right people, what can you speak about that? How can collaboration reach the farthest parts and the most underrepresented communities?
Yeah, thank you, Natalie. Good evening, everyone. So from my work that I've done in India, Mexico, and a few other contexts, we see technology, if it is of some commercial value, people are picking up, no matter where they are from. As long as there is value and they can make some money out of it, they just adopt any technology. And we saw a cooking channel in India that is run by a few villagers in one of the remotest parts of India, getting 60 million views for every video that they put out, watched by people all over the world. And so it's not a problem with the technology as such, as long as if people are equipped with the ability to kind of commercialize that technology, and if we show how they can do things in the form of a business model around it, people will just adopt it and take it further. We see the same with teen mothers in Mexico. We are working with them. And what I see as the power of AI is, so far we needed an intermediary called a software engineer to communicate with the machine. but now you can talk human language in our own language, Spanish, English, and you can still get work done. And I think that's the power that we are giving to the common person, and everybody will adopt it. And it is just going to get better and better. And I echo Seth's views where while we talk about threat and all that stuff, I see this as an enabler and an amplifier and a multiplier.
Yeah, well, look, I keep talking about inclusive innovation. It's not a plug for me, it's a real thing. But it is important that we have those conversations. So, Christy, because you're the woman with the plan, let's talk about how do we get women involved, not just in the consumption of all of these tools and the tech, but how do we get them involved with actually making, building, and pushing it out?
Well, I think we're at a really important inflection point, given where we've been in tech, which has not been inclusive. And now that we're very much not only aware of it, but the statistics are there, and frankly, we've seen some of the negative impacts of the lack of inclusion in tech, there's a real opportunity to build a future that is inclusive and also more innovative. I mean, sometimes I think about what innovations did we miss out on due to the lack of diversity in tech? You know, we've a million apps to find a parking space, but would we have actually used a lot of this brain power to solve bigger and more complex global problems if we had a more diverse group of people working on tech? So obviously the risk at this point in time is to continue these same bad habits of not being diverse and inclusive, et cetera. And I think, you know, we're at a point where we have to walk the walk.
Yeah, exactly. And what a better way to ask you, because Patricia, you have the unique perspective of running a global technology corporation, so you can see firsthand about some of the challenges that underrepresented people have in the tech industry, and also the ability to become a change maker in that role. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, thank you. I think that one of the main things that we plan is Globant. Globant is a public company, is listed in New York, but we have born in an emerging market, right? So we have that vision, the vision of being from the very first beginning born in an emerging market. So understanding underrepresented people is something that we have from the very first beginning. In 2014, we did the IPO there, and when we saw that we have those kind of impact in society, we were growing really fast. We are one of the key main competitors in the IT industry in terms of digital transformation. We have been able, well, now we are here, we're presenting a new vertical, this Globant Create, that has to do with digital marketing. But we all the time we understand that we have a responsibility in the things that we have been doing, specifically in the IT market. And of course, in terms of underrepresented people, I remember like 5 years ago, we launched a program that was called the Be Kind program. That first was an internal initiative that has to do with how we are going to be more diverse and inclusive. But then that Be Kind initiative, explore outside Globant and has the power of reach the people instead. So I think that there are three main things. The first thing that we take very, very for sure is how we train people. We need to amplify the pipeline of people that is underrepresented in the IT market. Specifically, of course, we have a very strong position in terms of including more women in the STEM field. So we have been working with universities, with governments, with other companies of IT in terms of doing alliances to train more women and to bring them into the job. The second is how do you allocate that talent? And that is a very strong responsibility that all the companies have, not only the IT, of course, where we have minor representative of women, but everyone should be very, think about what you are doing when you are thinking about that talent specifically and where you are going to allocate that talent. And we're using, for example, AI on that. We are using AI in terms of trying to avoid the bias in the interviews. We are using AI in terms of how we staff projects. We are using AI in many, many things in order to try to stop the biases there. So I think that is another thing. And the third one is, how you're going to go to the society and be responsible, not only asking the people for more talent more talented women, you need to be an active power there, and you need to be an active actor there. So one of the things that we have been doing is, for example, we did a lot of how do you say, becas, scholarships to women. We have been doing scholarships with many other populations. We have been growing alliances with different kinds of people that need to grow in this STEM field. So I think that is one of the key things that we all need to understand. When you are part of an IT company, you need to be responsible to change the status quo. And that is one of the things that we have on the Be Kind manifesto inside Globant.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. We oftentimes talk about the pipeline problem, and that it's not necessarily a pipeline problem. It's a targeting problem. It's an upskilling problem. It is absolutely a matter of getting the right people in the right spaces and giving them access and opportunity. So I want to go a little bit off script and kind of throw you guys a loop and ask you specifically, why is it so hard to fill the pipeline with diverse candidates in tech, whether it's corporations, startup, to make sure that the technology is inclusive? And what do you think needs to happen to kind of shorten that goal?
Well, I mean, we could start with the boards of directors of our largest technology companies, which are not diverse as they should be. We could also start with the C-suite of many of these companies, which are really all cookie cutter. And we could start to be maybe a little more vocal in calling out some performative DEI efforts that really are kind of BS. So. But it involves taking a risk, and not everybody's in a position to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I think it also has to do with the kind of culture that you want to have in your own company, right? So for us, it's not even a question if we need to change the status quo. All the C-suite, all the C-level, all the people inside Globant, I mean, have a very strong clearness about the values of the company. And that is one thing that really helped us. In the middle of the pandemic, I mean, we put everyone to work from home, but that was not only the only thing that we did. I mean, we helped the women in terms of giving them support programs for the ones that were, I mean, the only ones that are raising child. So we have different kind of strategies trying to help them in order to support them. So it's not just, I mean, enlarging the pipeline, having more women. You also need to understand that once you have the responsibility of that, you need to go and hold the women all around along the process. And that is something that we have been doing with different strategies. The other thing that we have done, I mean, is we launched the Women That Build Award that has the main objective of inspiring other women to join the IT field and the STEM field. And that is helping visualizing other women, I mean, helping each other, making communities, I mean, trying to understand that we are more than that what you just want to ask the people, right? I think that is again, the same thing I was mentioning before, is having that you have an active point of view in the society. It's not that you are just seeing something and you don't believe. We believe that, yes, there is an issue and we need to solve it, or we try to solve it. We have said a couple of years ago that we want to have more women in managerial roles, and all the company has those KPIs. I mean, every manager in the companies has KPI about diversity and inclusion. And that is another thing. So I'm not just saying, like Pato, I'm the CEO of Globant. I'm not just saying this. Yeah. I mean, everyone in the company has those KPIs and understand the vision of changing the status quo. And I think that is another very powerful tool.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that you're the exception and not the rule, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of performative D&I KPIs out there. But I want to put the men on a spot, because this is a lot of the work settles on you guys as well.
Definitely, you have to put us on the spot, for sure. So, see, diversity for the sake of just optics, or like, oh, there was a man and there was a female, and you put that, it is important, of course, because we need to show to the world that we are committed, but we also move from optics to outcomes. Like I run an innovation agency, and we know that you can create innovation only with diversity, diverse thinking, people from all walks of life. That's when real innovation happens. And how do we then create not just role models in terms of executives and board members, which is important. I'm not dismissing that. But on top of it, can we show role models in terms of how teams within organizations have achieved great outcomes because of diversity, and can leaders drive their teams to move towards that kind of role modeling, not just in terms of individuals, but in terms of diverse teams coming and taking something and producing much better, bigger outcomes than a traditional team. And that's when truly we can mainstream this, trickle down the ranks of the organization and show the world that it is important. So that's my take on it.
Yeah.
I think from kind of building off Christie's point, and a lot of experience in large multinationals, it does start with the board, but the organizations can structure themselves in a way that encourage not only diversity, but local representation in their management teams. So I've spent a lot of time in Latin America working with Sony, and I think one of the key biggest things I picked up in that region was figuring out how to staff your team so that it reflects each local market. And so I think that's a huge factor, basically. I mean, this is not new, by the way. I mean, everyone from Unilever to Kraft to Disney in different ways have struggled with this issue. But I'm a big believer in local staffing, local representation, not having the global HQ in New York or London dictating to everyone, but figuring out a way to be transnational and apply all the knowledge and skills, and whether it's gender diversity or organizational diversity. To me, that's also a factor to help it.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. You talk about technology being a representation of humanity at this current point, right? So when AI and these other tools came out, they were largely racist and sexist, and all the ists out there, all the models. And then you talk about just leaving it up to the technology companies to solve, and you're certainly leading the way. But it's up to all the industries, right? This panel is a representation of all the culture makers and the culture producing companies to kind of participate actively in that process to make sure that there is a balanced and inclusive way to go about. So tell me, I just want to cap it off with AI again because it's at the top of everybody's mind. So there's a stat recently that was going out when we're talking about job replacement or job deduping, if you will. 46% of what we call pink-collar jobs out there will be replaced or disrupted by AI. And obviously those are jobs held by women. We also know that women represent mostly half of the global workforce. So you talk about a huge disruption. Doesn't mean the jobs will be lost, but we don't know what the disruption will look like. And that's across every single industry. So I'd like to get some closing thoughts from each of you, from your own perspective of how do we begin to mitigate that huge societal disruption in your own industry and plan for that now.
I can jump in.
Yeah.
I mean, my background's mostly in the entertainment and music industry, and there's been a lot of short-term noise in the last 6 months. Everything from fake Drake to fake Rihanna to just Michael Jackson singing in the style of Tchaikovsky or whatever, you name it. All sorts of absurd stuff that's enabled by apps that have been written on top of ChatGPT. And I view that stuff as kind of funny and noisy because I think, at least in rights-oriented businesses, it's kind of a parallel to advertising. Rights owners will eventually figure out a way to authorize or license this so that all the data isn't scrubbed and used to replace and disrupt. And I mean, I'll add in music, there are tons of great things happening with AI. They're not in the headlines, but you can create play mixes that are tailored to advertisers, optimize user experiences, listening experiences, automate stuff that you don't want to have to pay a staffer for, just with bots. And there are all sorts of good, quiet uses of it that at least the American press doesn't write about. And so I think it's a mix of authorizing it with rights and licenses and figuring out how to work with it. There's a writer's strike now where I live in LA, and it's a huge issue. Writers all think they're going to get killed by it, and I don't believe that. I think there will be humans in the mix for all this stuff. So I'm kind of in the middle and an optimist about it, and don't think it will create jobs too, by the way, as much as it'll displace jobs. So.
Absolutely.
Well, and I must confess that I will try to come back what you said at the beginning of this conversation. I trust in humanity, right? So, and I trust in the culture that we're building. The new generations and ourselves are thinking about different values and a culture that is asking for more diversity and inclusion. So what I think that, of course, AI is impacting and replacing jobs, but it's building new jobs also. It's like every time we have this kind of iPhone moments, like the AI is right now, where something is jumping into the scenario and thinking ourselves in a different way and interacting ourselves with the culture and with each other in a different way. I mean, it's something that puts everyone on the spot. I think what has changed is the accessibility to AI. That is something that really changed these days, about ChatGPT, about how we are visualizing different examples of the things that are happening. But in Globant, we have been talking about AI for the last 10 years, and in different kind of things.
Yeah.
And we are applying that in different kind of issues, projects. So I think that today, the difference is, okay, everyone has the access to that. So that is changing the values that we are having. Someone is having a party there.
no, they're cheering your answer. That's what they're doing.
Come on.
Panel's getting people
Someone
excited.
is cheering up. No, so what I think is I mean, the new generation are asking for a new culture also inside your companies, inside the values of the society. It's not the same as 5 years ago or 3 years ago. Today is also another thing. So I think that we need to trust in that. And of course, us as probably the ones that are trying to define cultures and trying to build new cultures where you are attracting talent and you want to keep that talent inside your company, we need to try to be very well oriented to that. So I think that there are more opportunities to come than risks to come with AI.
Absolutely.
So my point of view, while some of these terminologies are new,
Yeah.
for example, prompt. So we say, hey, prompt, there are prompt engineers and all. What is new about prompt? I get into a car, I press the accelerator, I'm prompting the car to accelerate.
Yeah.
I take the steering, I move this side, prompt to the left, prompt to the right. So all these, while definitely it has advanced, if any new technology when it comes, as Seth mentioned, like this enormous amount of noise.
Yeah.
And because we have these platforms, they also blow it up beyond proportion. There is definitely a long-term view we need to take in terms of how we should be thinking about moving the whole, but not in like based on what is being shared right now. Can we make any deep conclusions? No. These are just too much, not noise, too much noise. And so when technology comes first, people will just get excited by technology and they will exaggerate technology. Oh, it can do this, it can do that. And then over a period of time, they'll start thinking about skills. And we are still not come to that stage, even in this phase. In every phase, it will go through that. And then this actually will help more people to start thinking about how to give value. And whatever you do, you need to now understand much more deeply, and you need to become much more specialized. And then this is actually going to deepen your understanding, and it's also going to amplify everybody's work. It's at the end of the day, if it is not wrapped around a business model, and if you're just going to talk about technology going to displace jobs, we have seen enough of it. I work for an international organization where they spoke about 8 new technologies that will change the world. Now look at all those technologies. They said blockchain, precision medicine, all that stuff. It is there. It will be adapted and people will use it, and it will be wrapped around business models and some value will be created. And it's the same thing here. It will be, as long as you wrap it around a business model and as long as you use it to create value, it'll be fine. And the ones who cannot, not just in AI technology, in any technology, internet technology, or even previous manufacturing technology, they will not be able to survive. And that's my limited point here.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I see you smirking over there. I don't know if you have anything to add, Christy.
Well, you know, we're at a festival that's supposed to celebrate creativity, but that creativity is largely used in the service of getting people to buy more stuff and to consume more. And personally, I think that we need to rethink capitalism so that we don't end up with yet an even more extractive form of capitalism from generative AI than surveillance capitalism. And we don't talk enough about it because it can be risky and scary, especially if you're in a corporate environment, to call out some of the KPIs that you're judged by. But the fact of the matter is, I think we are not asking ourselves hard enough questions about this. And then the second thing I would say, Natalie, is that we really need our elected officials to take responsibility for learning how this shit works, because we cannot have another cycle of our, in the US, our congresspeople and senators not having basic fluency in the language of technology. So I would love to see, yes, thank you, certification for elected, whether you're on the city council, the school board, mayor, what have you, or the highest levels of government, the ability to know the difference between, let's say, the term digital and social, or AI and generative AI. And if you could pass that test, then you can have all the votes you want.
That's fantastic. Yes. I want to open it up here because we have an audience of women. And so I want to put you guys in the spot, see if you have any other questions, anything you can think of besides drinking rosé next, because that's what we're all thinking about. Are you talking to me? Oh, well, look, I get a question, yeah. So, listening to everyone here, everyone touched on the actual skills. And so I think it's really important that our focus is women, right? Making sure that they get the upskilling they need. Now, there are a lot of organizations out there that are focused on upskilling in technology. The majority of them focus on coding, developing, very, very hard technical skills, which are incredibly important. But if you're someone like myself or anybody in the arts or music or anything, you may not have an interest in that. In order for me to participate in the creation and the proliferation of technology means that I have to do a complete 180 in a career. So for some, that is a choice, and that's an interesting prospect. For a lot of people, no. So they just opt out, or they become a passive user of things like this, like ChatGPT and all of these other emerging tools. And so what Mia specifically is focused on is finding folks who are technical, but more importantly, those who are non-technical, who want to learn how to learn the skills, right? Learn that basic knowledge, that vocabulary of what it is and what it isn't. Learn those things, apply them in their life, and then understand how to plot their next career path. And it doesn't necessarily mean a lateral move in their current situation. Jumping, it could be switching to a new company, switching from company to startup, starting their own, collaborating. The possibilities are endless. But in order to survive the disruption, it's really all about a continuous education on technology, and the pace is so fast, so it has to be continuous. And so with Mia and our learning network, which we actually just launched in beta this week and have more than 37 countries represented in a matter of 2 days of opening this, so the response is overwhelming. But the micro lessons they come to get and make it palpable and make them understand that this is something I can learn and begin to use immediately, and also talk to other women about how they're using these things. And again, plot the course, because if you don't have the perspectives, voices, and skills of all people, women, brown and black communities, LGBTQ, if you don't have those participating in the building of the thing, then the thing becomes another tool of oppression. So it starts with the upskilling and the education, and then the other part is the collaboration. Well, I think that's all we have time for today, because I am not one to stop a good time, and I know there are parties everywhere. So I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank all of you for taking the time out to have this conversation, and we look forward to seeing you everywhere today.
Thank you, Natalie. Excellent moderation. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks, Natalie. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.